First up, the Biden campaign is airing its first ads targeting Donald Trump's new status as a convicted felon. It's part of a $50 million ad campaign this month that Team Biden hopes will remind voters why they rejected Trump 4 years ago. CNN's Arlette Saenz is live at the White House. Arlette, talk about the reporting that you have about the decision making that went into this, because we definitely heard both sides of the argument from lots of Democrats about how heavily to lean into Trump's convictions.
Yeah, this really does mark a significant escalation of President Biden's attacks on Trump's after months of really refraining from using his legal issues in any of their campaign arguments. The campaign today is now really sharpening their attack on Trump, releasing this ad directly calling him a convicted criminal at a time when they have their eyes on that first debate in just 10 days. Now, what the Biden campaign is doing with this ad is laying out all of the criminal cases that have faced former President Donald Trump, really leaning into the fact that they're using these legal issues as part of their argument that Trump is unfit to serve in the office of the presidency. Take a listen to how this ad is trying to frame the election for voters.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working.
And what the narrator goes on to say is that this is a choice between a convicted criminal who is looking out for himself and President Biden, who is working for American families. Now, this will be part of a $50 million ad campaign in the month of June, hitting televisions and internet streaming platforms to make this argument directly to battleground state voters. And it's also coming on the heels of a high-dollar fundraiser President Biden attended over the weekend with former President Barack Obama and some Hollywood stars like George Clooney and Julia Roberts. The Biden campaign said that fundraiser brought in $30 million in that one night alone. That is the largest Democratic fundraiser in U.S. history. And the president and Obama also used that really to try to make a stark warning about what a second Trump presidency could hold, with their eye on the debate as the two men prepare to face off for the first time since 2020.
Wow. The largest haul in history for Democrats. I actually didn't know that. That's really interesting. Thank you so much, Arlette. Appreciate that. Let's kick off this week with a panel of terrific reporters. CNN's Gloria Borger, Sungmin Kim of the Associated Press, CNN's Jeff Zeleny, and CNN's Elena Treen. Happy Monday, one and all.
Happy Monday.
Jeff Zeleny, I know you've been doing some reporting about, just like I asked Arlette, about the decision-making process and the pros and cons that were debated internally about this ad campaign.
Look, so much hand-wringing among Democrats. Should President Biden and the campaign go after the convictions? Should he not? Should he focus on his own issues? One Democrat said, that's largely academic. The reality is he needs to improve his standing. And the summer, they think, is the time to try and keep reminding voters of that contrast. It clearly hasn't set in with them yet. So they're wondering and hoping that this ad buy will do so. One thing the Biden campaign has is money, because of what Arlette was just saying, the fundraising campaigns they've had. So they have the luxury of now, at least, of spending $50 million on this ad. It's pretty extraordinary when voters, Americans in the summer are doing other things, but they want to make this the conversation going into the debate next week, and they want to frame this. But now we have a really extraordinary moment. Both sides, the Trump side and the Biden campaign, are both using his convictions to raise money and define this race. On the Trump side, they're saying it's part of an unfair prosecution, a revenge. They are out to get him and, by extension, voters. And the Biden campaign is saying he's unfit for office. So unusual that one very thing is being used by both sides in different ways.
I love when we get a Jeff Zeleny boiling it all down moment. You have been doing reporting with your sources inside the Trump campaign. What are they saying about this new campaign?
Well, look, I think the strategy here is going to be that they're going to continue to argue that this is a sign that his conviction, but also all of the legal battles that Donald Trump is facing, is a sign that Democrats and the Biden campaign are trying to prosecute their political opponent. We saw after this ad was released, several of Donald Trump's top advisors, a spokesperson, criticizing this ad for just that on social media. Now, I'm also told when I talk to the Trump campaign that when it comes to debate prep next week, they know that this is going to be a core potential question that will come up. And so they are preparing for that, even though Donald Trump's campaign says he doesn't need to do debate prep. He's not going to be doing any mock debate. We'll see if that happens or not. But I know that they are walking through some of the key issues and questions that they know the former president might struggle with. And this is definitely one of those themes.
I think this just is a part of the Biden campaign trying to remind voters who Donald Trump is and who he has been. And there's a lot of talk about Trump amnesia, you know, voters have forgotten about Donald Trump and all the rest. And I think this is one way, and this is all pretty current stuff, of saying, wait a minute, you can't just gloss over this stuff. Here's the difference between these two fellows. And by the way, character, the issue of character, is making a big comeback in this campaign. Not, you know, we talked about competence a lot and all the rest. You know, we've heard Jill Biden talk about character. I think we're going to see a lot of the surrogates talk about the character of these two men, and I think this is one way to do it.
That's such an important point. Maybe to sort of help put meat on the bone of that point, or I don't know, maybe it's better to go in a different direction as I play this soundbite. What you were saying about this issue of Donald Trump's legal battles and how now the Biden campaign is using it as a weapon, and the Trump campaign has been, and Trump himself has been very much saying, you know, I am you. Today they're going after me. Tomorrow it's going to be you, and they're taking it even a step further. Steve Bannon was speaking at a right-wing conference in Detroit over the weekend, one that Trump attended as well. Listen to the way he framed this same topic.
November 5th is Judgment Day. January 20th, 2025 is Accountability Day. We're going to get every single receipt. And to the fullest extension of the law, you are going to be investigated, prosecuted, and incarcerated. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very simple. Victory or death.
Yeah, I mean, it's that very strong words there, but it's also kind of echoing the messaging that we're coming out of Donald Trump himself. He talks about how, you know, when he's talking to voters, how I am your retribution. And that is that is one of the things that the Biden campaign is focusing on. You look at the ad that was released this morning, it talks about how Donald Trump is out for himself while President Biden is out there working for you. And that is among one of the many contrasts that they want to make with former President Trump before the campaign, because I do think they're aware that President Biden's own numbers aren't good right now. If you look historically, incumbent presidents who have had numbers as low as Biden's just don't get reelected. So they know right now their main focus has to be pulling Trump down, and in addition to lifting Biden up, but really pulling Trump down.
And another way to look at this is an argument is being made by both candidates and both campaigns that I'm the least bad option. I'm the best bad option. I mean, obviously, neither of them would think that they are a bad option, but they see the polls and they see what I'm going to show you right now, which is what has now become known in political parlance as double haters. And that means that voters who are just not into either one of these candidates look at where we are right now. That applies to 25% of people who talked to Pew in a recent poll. But just look at the difference, if you look historically, between now with Biden and Trump. Even Trump and Biden, 13% 4 years ago. Hillary Clinton, it's maybe versus Trump, it was maybe the closest that it's been as it is now. But I mean, we remember a lot of these very tough races. Even McCain, Obama, 13%. If you go back to 1988, George H.W. Bush and Michael Dukakis, only 5% of people said that they were unhappy with their choices. 5% versus 25% right now, Gloria.
Well, they don't like them. I mean, they don't like either of these candidates. They think they're both, well, particularly Biden, they think he's too old. They don't see any great ideas. They don't see any rescue. You know, people are looking for a rescue. Things haven't been going well. And a lot of people are full of grievance about it. And, you know, they don't like Donald Trump's personality, but they think he's a fighter. And they can accept Joe Biden's personality, but they think he's weak. So it's not great choices out there for them. And what do? You know, people are, you know, undecided voters are like, well, maybe I'll give RFK Jr. a look, but what about him do you like? Well, I don't really know.
Yeah, he's not the other two.